Should I do like a YouTuber intro like, what's up, everybody?
Do it. Do what you want.
Munch on those snacks, Amari. Go ahead.
Make sure you hit that notification bell.
Like and subscribe. Link in the description for my sponsor. Join Honey or join Squarespace or Wix or whatever it is now.
Guys, YouTube only gives me like 2 cents a year. Can you guys like donate millions of dollars to my Patreon? That'd mean a lot to me.
Oh, yeah.
All right, what's up, everybody? This is Ben from the Tst Sports, episode 2. We're going to be highlighting the NFL Week 1 and the NBA this episode. Hope you enjoy.
All right, hey, what's up, guys? I'm Aniket, and we're going to talk about everything that's going on right now, talk about what's going to happen in the future when it comes to NFL and NBA.
I'm Sklar. I'm going to be talking most about NFL. I don't know anything about the NBA, but I'm excited to talk about the NFL later this episode.
I'm Andrew. I'm a big fan of both the NBA and the NFL. It's my first time on a Tst Sports Podcast, sports or just the regular one, so it's excited to be here.
I'm Zeke. I'm going to be talking about basketball. Football is not really my thing. I've been here before, so you guys know me.
Yeah, my name's Maury. You guys already know me. I'm going to be talking about football. I'm going to be talking about basketball. But yeah, man, it's going to be a good episode.
All right, let's get down to business here. We're going to be talking about the NBA first. And this has been a huge week of basketball. Last night, we're recording this on Wednesday, September 16th. So last night, we had 2 very, very good games back to back. We had the first round, Heat Celtics, playing for that East spot in the finals. Let's talk a little bit about that.
They lost by 20. Like, can we say anything more than that? Like, how do you count yourself as, like, you know, the team that's going to beat the Lakers and, like, actually go to the finals? I mean, I saw some tweet on I saw something on Twitter saying that, like, by, like, pure, like, trophies and honors, they're not even actually the best, like, basketball team. The WNBA LA team has more conference titles and more titles than the actual LA Clippers. So, you know, interpret that as you will, but...
Well, the Clippers have sucked for basically their entire franchise history, except for when Chris Paul and Blake and DeAndre Jordan got there. But I'm not going to lie, it is a disappointment. I low-key wanted the Clippers to win just to see the Battle of LA. I think that would have been more interesting than Nuggets versus Lakers. Not to take anything away from the Nuggets, great performance, especially from Jamal Murray and Jokic. You know, we're hearing a lot about how the Clippers choked, but I think we need to talk a lot more about the Nuggets. And I mean, I didn't have the Nuggets beating the Clippers in the series, but obviously they proved me and like basically everyone else wrong. And I think this really shows a lot about Jamal Murray and how he has stepped up from last season to this season. And apparently, like last night, was his like 8th elimination game. He's now 7-1 in elimination games. And you know, obviously Kawhi, like, very disappointing. And you know, I expected playoff P to come out, but I didn't expect Kawhi to underperform like that. But you know, we can't just hate on Kawhi. You know, every NBA player has a bad game. They were supposed to go to the conference finals to battle LA. I mean, everyone had them going to the conference finals to play Lakers. So I mean, it's just a huge disappointment. Very good for the Nuggets. Very good.
Overall, I think even though they blew such a big lead in the series, they still have a very good foundation to go off of. Like, we honestly don't know what to tell you in terms of what I think will happen in the offseason, whether Kawhi leaves again or Paul George leaves, or they get rid of, like, Marcus Morris or Lou Williams or someone have to, if they decide anyone at all has to go. Like Amari said, we need to give our props to the Nuggets for surprising everyone else. But as a whole, I think it's just the Clippers, their fault as a whole. Not really anyone else to blame. Like Lou Williams, he only scored about like 10 points throughout the whole series. It's kind of disappointing. So it's just like, I don't want to see Kawhi and Paul George get all the heat, even though it makes sense that they do, since they're the 2 front runners and they were supposed to be like the perfect team this season that would be able to beat LeBron and the Lakers. Disappointing for the Clippers. Huge win for the Nuggets.
There's just so much that I want to say about this game, but I'm going to keep it pretty short and sweet. Obviously, Paul George, playoff P, has turned into like one of the biggest laughingstocks of the league now. You know, the Clippers traded more first-round draft picks than he had field goals made. in that Game 7, which is pretty bad. I mean, he's definitely an overvalued player at this point. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next season. Hopefully he can get himself out of this funk and come back next season better than ever. Shout out to the Nuggets. I think that this season and this playoff run has definitely cemented Jokic as one of the best big men in the league. And he's a pretty fun player to watch. He has great court vision. I love what he does on the floor. And he's just a big, funny guy. So he's definitely like a great guy to root for, and looking forward to seeing what he does. Let's see what he does in the conference finals and next season too. I think it's only onwards and upwards from him.
I only have a couple things to say. First, what's his name? Jokic is the best player in the league. I mean, best big man in the league. I'm sorry, best center in the league. I don't want to hear about.
Agreed.
I don't want to hear about Joel Embiid or whatever. It's
All right, let's calm down.
No. Y'all had your turn. Wait. I don't want to hear about that anymore. Maybe you could say Anthony Davis. He doesn't really play center, but that's the only one. I don't want to hear about anybody else. Second, I picked the Clippers to win the championship, right? I was wrong. You were right. I'll admit that, right? But Kawhi Leonard went 6 for 24. Paul George, I knew Paul George was going to show up. Playoff P, pandemic P. He's just not good. Like, I knew he wasn't going to show up, right? But Kawhi Leonard, 6 for 24. Everybody used to talk about, Kawhi Leonard is the best player in the world. Not me. But everybody used to talk about, Kawhi Leonard is the best player in the world. Kawhi Leonard's a cyborg. I heard Onaya say Kawhi Leonard's a better scorer than LeBron James. Ben, you were there for that.
I can attest to this.
6 for 24. Could you imagine what would happen if LeBron James went 6 for 24 in a Game 7? The media would be all over him, and it probably wouldn't happen, right? So I just want to say that was probably one of the biggest chokes. We expected you to play well, and you just didn't play well. You know what I mean? So I no longer think Kawhi's top 3. I don't think Paul George is top 10. And big ups to the Nuggets, Jamal Murray, Jokic. You know what I mean? I feel like you have to start talking about them a lot more now too. Got to put respect on their name, especially if they do it to the Lakers. If they do it to the Lakers, Jamal Murray and Jokic are top 10. Now, I don't think they will, but they do their top 10. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, watching the game last night, usually Kawhi, in the fourth quarter, I remember in the Mavs series, if they were up by a little or down by a little, he would just go off in the fourth. And it didn't even look like he really wanted it. I mean, there was a point where the Clippers didn't score for 4 straight minutes in the fourth quarter. And I mean, I'm looking at Doc Rivers to see if he's going to bring some emotion out of this team or if someone's going to do something. And I mean, they just didn't look like they wanted it really. I mean, playoff P, I never had him in my top 10 ever. His last season with OKC, regular season, was probably, one of his best career seasons. He was in the MVP conversation until he got injured his shoulder. But I mean, I think one of the real takeaways about this is load management. And, the whole Clippers really need to just look at themselves in the mirror this offseason.
To switch it up a little bit, I know we were talking about how Jamal Murray was surprising everybody and he kind of had an emergence. But a guy I'm not really surprised about, but a lot of other people were surprised about, who's been showing up a lot, is Jimmy Butler in the Miami Heat. Now, a lot of people did not think the Heat were going to go very far because they don't really have a lot of star power besides Jimmy, and you could sort of count Bam Adebayo. But what did you guys think about the Celtics game last night?
Man, oh man. I feel like I watched most of that game, but I definitely was tuned in for the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And it was just highlight after highlight after highlight from both teams. And obviously, I'm a Philly fan, so I'm obviously rooting against the Celtics. But the Celtics have some ballers, all right? Jason Tatum is a beast. And I don't really like Kemba Walker because the only thing he does is that little pull up from the free throw line. So I can't really mess with Kemba like that. But that was a great game. Came down to the very end, obviously went into overtime. Bam had that huge block. Jimmy Butler had that fadeaway corner 3. It was just from a basketball fan, that was a great game. And if that whole series is going to be like that, it's going to be one for the ages.
I enjoyed that game. I watched all of it. But I think we need to talk about Kemba Walker. I mean, Charlotte was willing to give you $220-something plus million, and the Celtics are paying you, I think, maybe over $150 million. And the goal is to win a championship. And I mean, I don't know what the box score is by heart, but mean, this man was not performing well. And I mean, I always say, like, he's lucky he has Tatum and Brown and Smart to bail him out at times. But I mean, you look at who's taking the last shot, it's Tatum in the game. And I feel like if Kemba steps up and shoots better and performs better, then the Celtics win that game. But also Jimmy Butler, I mean, I didn't even have the Heat. I had the Heat at the 6th seed at the beginning of the season. But I mean, and Zeke talked about them not really having the star power, but they're just a good group of organized guys who are willing to work for it. Like, they probably want it more than anyone in the playoffs right now, probably other than the Lakers. But I mean, I hope the Heat win this series. I feel like it would be really interesting if LeBron, and yes, LeBron would beat the Nuggets, obviously. If LeBron went back and played Miami in the finals, I think that'd be a very interesting story.
All right, so there you go. There are our NBA predictions, sort of what we think's going on, our reactions. Now let's switch it over to the NFL. And this is coming off week 1 of the NFL. It was a crazy week 1. Certainly really strange watching it on TV. You got the cardboard cutout fans. You got people masked up on the sidelines. But it felt like it was a pretty entertaining week 1. I'm a big fantasy player, so I had Red Zone on, in addition to the Eagles game, which I had to turn off because it was just a despicable performance. But yeah, it was a pretty entertaining week 1. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, you mentioned how despicable the Eagles game is, and I'm a Giants fan, I'm not an Eagles fan, and I just want to hear your thoughts on it. Eagles doing great in the first half. All of a sudden, Dwayne Haskins throwing dimes, and your defense is shutting you out, getting 8 sacks on the day total. What does that do to you? Because you're going to the season thinking like, oh, we have a pretty good shot. We got some players. If Carson Wentz is safe, we can go definitely over 500. We could probably make the playoffs this year, Like, we've been doing that for years now. And you think about the Washington football team, And then they've been their offseason has been everyone thinks Dwayne Haskins sucks, and you're thinking that they're going to go maximum 4-12 this year. And just how do you take that as an Eagles fan?
All right, so let me break it down for all of our listeners out there. And I want all the listeners to just take a deep breath real quick, because I'm about to drop a truth bomb that I'm afraid that not everyone wants to hear, all right? The Eagles are not a good team. Okay. And I consider myself a pretty diehard Philly fan, all right? The Eagles, since the Super Bowl, have been a severely flawed team. And the only reason why, we make it to the playoffs and we do well is because our division is really bad, all right? The Cowboys are really, really bad. The Giants are also really, really, really bad. Was injured, so already that was a huge red flag. That's been like the Eagles' signature move for the past 3-4 years now, is just injured starters. So
No Lane Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, their whole offensive line was just torn up, battered, thrown around that game. A lot of them were not in their positions or where they were supposed to be, but yeah, we got torn apart. We play Aaron Donald next week. As if this week wasn't bad enough for the offensive line. Aaron Donald, one of the best rusher in the league. So it's going to be a rough year for the Eagles. We might not make the playoffs. We might not. But just strap in your seatbelts and let's go.
How do you lose to How do you lose to a team that has no name? Let's talk about a team that's actually winning. A good story to hear. The Pittsburgh Steelers, my team.
Nobody wants to hear about your team, Amari. Nobody wants to hear about your team, Amari.
Bro, everyone wants to hear about the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. And y'all said, "Oh,
you want to talk what happened in the fantasy group chat where we're talking about Juju?
Juju had how many touchdowns? Yeah, that's what I thought. That is what I thought. Okay, y'all want to say, "Oh, Ben is washed. Oh, he's old. He's too old." My man threw 3 touchdowns.
I'm also a Giants fan. I live in New York. That game was definitely a tough game to watch, especially in the second half when things started getting out of control. Line isn't isn't the best if you haven't noticed them, Mark. But you guys have a very good front seven. Just being honest.
Yeah. So we were talking about Big Ben and his comeback. One quarterback that did not come back was Tom Brady, the new Buccaneer after being on the Patriots for how many years? 20 maybe? I don't know. And probably the greatest of all time QB goes to Tampa and throws 2 picks and loses to the Saints. Be granted, Saints are definitely a playoffs team, probably like a good Super Bowl contender, so it's not the worst thing in the world that they lost. But when you're Tom Brady and you've been in the Patriots for 20 years, gotten 6 Super Bowls, and then you come to Tampa Bay and you don't show that elite level that you've had for 20 years, people are going to say, system QB only won because of Bill Belichick. And what do you do after this week 1? What does Tom Brady have to do to get the trust back from Bucs fans and just Tom Brady fans?
I think definitely, what I noticed was that, even going through the game, they were getting better and better. It was, an insane, deficit for much of the game. But, later on, they're getting a good number of touchdowns. I think that, do you think this game settles that, age-old question, is it Brady that made the Patriots so dominant, or was it Belichick? Do you think this game decides that at all?
Well, I mean, obviously the Patriots have won games without Brady, and they've also lost games without Brady. But I mean, if you want to talk about the Patriots winning, it's the Dolphins, man. Obviously the Patriots should beat the Dolphins. Even if Brady was on that team, they'd be beating the Dolphins. But I mean, like Sklar said, the Saints are a really good team, and one thing that you have to realize is that the Buccaneers, as a whole, haven't had that much time to practice together and build chemistry, and apparently Brady is still learning the playbook. So I mean, I personally think it's a disappointing start for the Buccaneers. I do think the Buccaneers fans should still have trust in Brady. I mean, he's 1,000 times better than what Jameis Winston would be, but I mean, it's going to be a long process, but I do expect the Bucs to make the playoffs.
And one last thing when we're talking about the Bucs, don't get me wrong, I love to root against Tom Brady, but I was watching that game and he just looked like he was having fun. I know he was losing, I know he wasn't having the best game, but he's got his boys out there, he's got Gronk, he's got weapons on that team to do really well offensively. So I think they'll start clicking in. They'll definitely win some games. I'm not that worried about the Bucs having even a losing season. I think they'll do pretty well this year.
All right. Well, we're going to see Tom Brady next week when he goes against the Panthers at 1 o'clock Sunday. And this is going to be a series where we're going to be predicting some of the highlights of the next week. And so we're going to be predicting Bucs versus Panthers. So I think that the Panthers are actually going to win this game, because I don't think Tom Brady's going to be able to rebound after only 1 week. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
I think Tampa Bay is going to come out strong and hungry for the first win of their season. Learn the playbook even some more and build even more chemistry. I think they're going to come out, and I think they're going to destroy the Panthers. I think they might put up 30, and the Panthers might only put up around.
I mean, it'll be a pretty entertaining game. Hopefully, it actually comes on national TV. I think that game is probably going to be only regional. I think based on the sheer number of passing weapons, I think the defense is Panthers defense is gonna be overwhelmed, and the Bucs will get the win.
And one last prediction on the Salted Tree Sports Podcast: the Sunday night game, prime time, Patriots versus the Seahawks. I think this is going to be a great game. What do you guys think the outcome will be?
This is going to be the first real test for Cam Newton and the Patriots after losing Tom Brady in the offseason, and I wonder how they're going to live up. And if the Patriots can make it competitive or win today, especially considering that they have 8 players who opted out of the season due to COVID, and they win against the Seahawks, who last week looked amazing against the Falcons, that's at the point where you're saying, I don't care if Tom Brady is gone, the Patriots are a legit contender for the Super Bowl, with Brady or not. But my opinion on the game, I think the Seahawks are going to win it.
I think their offense is too strong, and I think their defense is also too strong. So I got the Seahawks winning that game.
Yeah, I also have the Seahawks as well. Just dangerous. Wilson, he's just a bad man. I may look like an idiot, but Raiders and Saints, I think the Raiders will surprise a lot of people next week. When he was, I guess, like first 2 years, people were saying he was like the next Rodgers. I was on that hype train as well. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, it died down because he hasn't been doing the best. But I've looked at some film, and it's been Gruden's play calling. Sometimes he's like recalled the same plays over and over. Even though they lost to the Panthers this week, there's still a lot more for the Raiders to show, and I think it's going to be a shootout next week with Breeze and Carr.
Yeah, I agree with Andrew. Derek Carr has something to prove this year after people are saying, oh, the Raiders need to draft a quarterback, or he's not the franchise quarterback, or all that talk. They didn't draft the quarterback, obviously, or maybe they did, but I don't think it was a special quarterback or anything like that.
Or Marcus Mariota or something?
Oh, yeah, they do it. Man, Marcus Mariota is going to be the backup for that team. But I do believe in Derek Carr. I remember when he got to the playoffs against the Texans, they might have won or lost, I forget. But I want to see him succeed. I like Josh Jacobs. I like the Raiders receiver core. So, yeah, that's going to be a good game.
Yeah, that's probably one of the other more interesting games that are going on. Definitely, I think the Seahawks will probably edge out the Patriots, partly because they have better weapons with DK Metcalf, and overall, just their team's just way better. I definitely want to. I kind of want to see I guess which team can kind of assert its dominance during this second week, not just beating out a smaller team, but actually saying yeah, we are the top dogs. I mean, I don't know what team that's going to be, but that's what I was thinking.
What I was just thinking was, man, it's so great to have sports back. Loving the NFL so far. It's been super entertaining. Can't wait for more playoff basketball. And honestly, I'm just glad that it seems like we're coming out of this mess. And it's nice to have sports back to kind of have something to talk about, sort of unify us out there. And I just can't wait for next week. So thank you guys for listening. This has been Salted Treat Sports, Episode 2, signing out. Peace out, guys.